but we never hear why they're important for our sleep. The truth is, very few of us consider that what we put in our body during the day affects what happens at night. Here in the yellow zone, we've constructed a mini cash till to give each volunteer a printout of what they're putting in their bodies day to day.
What would your normal breakfast be? Would it be cereal, toast, yogurt, cooked breakfast or fruit?
Coffee.
Coffee? Just coffee?
Yes.
No fruit?
No.
OK, fine.
Well, I think most people know that coffee contains caffeine, but it's important, of course, that we recognise that other things also contain caffeine, not least tea, chocolate, and quite a number of soft fizzy drinks.
Colder drinks, I'm drinking on average 6 litres a day.
If I don't have caffeine, I'll just have a splitting headache.
Strong coffee.
12, 13, 14 cups a day. But I have been cutting down. I've been aware of it and I've been cutting down.
Most of us know from experience that if you're high on caffeine, it's very difficult to get to sleep. But less well known are the other foods that might be keeping us awake.
Would it be cooked meal, takeaway, salad platter, pizza?
Foods containing the amino acid tyramine are thought to be particular culprits. It's found in foods that are aged, like salamis and cheeses. And even some of our most staple foods could potentially be detrimental to our sleep. Potatoes and sausages all contain different levels of tyramine. There's a more detailed list on our website.
So then during the day, do you snack on things? Do you snack on fruits during the day?
But it's not just food.
I do have a few of those, though.
Little nicotine sticks?
Yes.
OK, again, yes, I smoke.
Caroline smokes cigarettes, and nicotine acts as a stimulant, so this is expected to make her sleep quality poor. But the point is, if she's smoking a large number of cigarettes during the day, then during the night she will actually have poor quality sleep because she's developing a craving for nicotine.
And what about dietary supplements? Things like ginkgo biloba, ginseng, guarana, ginger. Yes, a scan there.
People take dietary supplements because they're trying to look after their health. But some of these supplements actually contain stimulants. And some substances that people take to help them diet actually contain caffeine.
Now, do you drink milky drinks or milk?
Milk.
And is there any truth in the old tradition of a milky bedtime drink?
But you
Just
drink
milk.
OK, we'll
Just
scan
milk.
there.
I'm afraid there's no evidence that milky drinks actually have a sleep-inducing quality. There's a substance called tryptophan in milk. Some people think somehow it gets into your brain and helps you sleep, but the quantity is so small and it would take hours for it to get into the brain anyway. So there's no need to actually take specifically milky drinks to help you go to sleep. They're just a great comfort.
By now, you'll already have a few tips to improve your own night's sleep. But how do our sleeping habits change as we get older? As a parent, I remember when my children were toddlers, the hardest thing was getting them to sleep. When they started at primary school, the issue became trying to stop them getting up too early, especially at the weekends. And then, in their teenage years, it was a question of whether they'd ever get up. Then as we head for retirement, it all starts to shift again.
What's really interesting is, do older people have less sleep? And if you have a look at this graph...
One of the most common sleep complaints amongst the over 50s is long-term insomnia.
I go to a club, a group called Over 60 Club, and most of the women there all say the same, they can't sleep.
I do get that.
Over 500,000 people in the UK suffer from chronic insomnia, and there's usually no obvious reason for it.
How many hours do you think you sleep in the night?
Not many.
Not many? What do you think? How many?
Probably 4.
There's just no pattern, really. Some I call a good night, which is maybe 3 hours, 3.5 hours, or a bad night, which is half an hour or nothing. Literally, on occasions, I go right through the night and just do not get to sleep at all.
Doug Joss is a typical chronic insomniac. He hasn't slept properly for the last 25 years. And he's become obsessed with not sleeping enough.
I know when I lie down, I'm going to have what I call a bad night. I know I'm wide awake. I know nothing's going to send me off. And so I physically get up and try and do something. I I think this is going to be one of what I call my bad nights. I just don't seem to get off at all. 1:15. I've been awake about an hour, and I don't know how I'm going. I feel very, very weary. Had a very bad night last night, still going strong at 4 o'clock. Got up, wandered downstairs, looked at a crossword, but was too daft to do that even.
Doug has got himself into a vicious cycle. The more he worries about his sleep, the less sleep he gets. It's a classic sign of long-term insomnia. So we're sending Doug to London to meet clinical psychologist Elizabeth Robson.
I have obviously a rough idea of why you are here, but it would help if you could perhaps tell me yourself in your own words.
It's been going on for, I think, about 25 years now.
Is that exactly 25 years since you...
No, that's a guess.
And did anything happen at the time?
Not that I can recall.
Okay. What would be a good night's sleep?
I've been asked this before, and I'd love 5 hours.
You would love to have 5
I'd
hours,
love to have
uninterrupted sleep?
Uninterrupted sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe genuinely that is as much sleep as you need.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously not fantastic, we know that much, but it's also not this huge problem. Okay, let's assume that is just the way your lifestyle has changed,
Yeah.
the way your need for sleep has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Could you possibly...
The first step is to encourage Doug to stop his obsession about his lack of sleep. Elizabeth is recommending Doug keeps a sleep diary to assess exactly how much he's sleeping. That way, he should hopefully stop worrying about how much sleep he is or isn't getting.
So what I'm going to ask you, next time you can't sleep...
And she's also encouraging him to minimize the amount of time he stays in bed awake, and to go to a different room if he can't sleep.
You remove yourself. Your bedroom is for sleeping.
Doug's agreed to give it a try, and to come back in 2 weeks for another session. But Elizabeth isn't convinced he thinks it's worth the effort.
I very much had the impression that he was rather resistant, skeptical, very much seeing this as yet another thing that he's going to try. And I think that very much came across in the first session.
I didn't get off, I suppose, until maybe midnight. And then since then I seem to have dreamt a lot. Now here I'm at 20 to 4 and anxious to get back into bed and see if I can get any sleep again.
Doug's a very busy 83-year-old. His friend Brenda has been helping him write his memoirs of life in the RAF. And today he's showing her the old Lancaster bombers he used to crew. Doug's career continued in the RAF long after the war. He and his late wife had 2 sons, one of whom now lives in Canada. But until now, he's been scared to visit because he's convinced he'd be too tired to cope with a long journey. As Doug heads into London again, Elizabeth has a hunch that his sleep problems have more to do with his past than he thinks.
I can't help feeling that somewhere in your mind, whether consciously or subconsciously, you have connected the act of sleeping with something very negative.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether you can relate to this at all.
I find it difficult to
You find it
accept
difficult,
that,
yes.
I do.
You were in the war, weren't you?
Yes.
Were there times when you had to stay awake?
I was sitting in the back end of a Lancaster aircraft. If you didn't stay awake...
what would have happened?
You'd been shot.
Have you ever had a similar experience like that time when you were literally torn out of your sleep with the bad news?
My wife died just over 3 years ago.
What